Hey, truth seekers, welcome back. Yesterday, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, spoke in Congress, the first time the leader of Israel has ever spoken in Congress. And he was invited by John Boehner of the 114th Congress. The name John Boehner sums to 114. The Congress was voted on November 4th. In the time John Boehner's been in power, Congress has been referred to as the new Congress. This connects with Netanyahu's visit. With Pythagorean gematria, new Congress sums to 52 and 70. We know 52 is a number of importance right now. With simple English gematria, new Congress sums to 142. Of course, if you write out the word 42, it sums to 142. President Obama equals 142. The word terrorist equals 142. Other important words are 142. It's a number of significance. If you write out 39, it also sums to 142. In the case of Jews, they go by the Old Testament of 39 books. So, why is this significant? It's the number 42. When John Boehner invited Netanyahu to speak in Congress, the date was for February 11th, the 42nd day of the year, the day Obama reopened Ford's Theater where Lincoln was assassinated in 2009. Of course, the words war, sin, and gun are all three-letter words that sum to 42. February is a month with 42 gematria. Also 96 like the word Freemason. But it didn't end up happening that day. They ended up moving it. And when did they move it? They moved it to March 3rd. And when they made the switch of dates from February 11th to March 3rd, 3-3, they made a point about how the Congressional Black Caucus might not show up. So they were adding this racial element. And of course, the number 33 is so often coded into racial matters, from the word honky to the Michael Brown case, which also came up yesterday, March 3rd. Remember, Michael Brown's story was completely coded with 33. That's when I started this video blog. Ongoing numerological conspiracy. So what we're looking at right here is this is a headline from the day before. This is March 2nd. CNN gave us this story March 2nd. Netanyahu, no disrespect to Obama. And the reason this was the case is because it's not President Obama who invited Netanyahu to speak in Congress. It's John Boehner. So, they're trying to build this story of division. Now check this out. This is March 2nd. Here's the headline, March 3rd. Same news source. This is CNN. March 2nd, they're trying to make it seem like, oh, it's not so bad. March 3rd, the headline is, the gloves are off. You know, it's so easy to see what our media is doing. Back in 2008, before Obama was the president, I told everybody it was a setup. I didn't even understand numbers or numerology. I just said, you got to be kidding me. We're getting our first black president when we're having this economic collapse, these crazy wars that don't need to be going on, these ongoing false threats of terrorism. You know, he got dealt a full house of shit, and, you know, the ignorant public, the predominantly white public, the predominantly anti-black public, the American public. And, you know, all of us should sympathize with every American, because the reason we are the way we are is because we've continually been trained and programmed to be as stupid and ignorant and racist as we are. You know, it's an ongoing program for all Americans. That's why we see the number of, problems that we go through that are completely unnecessary. So, here's just more of that, making the president look bad, and of course, it is because he's black. Never before has a president been treated like this. Fox News likes to go on and say, making up excuses because he's black. Bzz. It's so obvious. It's so obvious that all this is meant to stir racial division and feed on all the programming of our past years. You know, that's why we've been getting the headlines about black versus white so often for the last year. We haven't seen headlines like that from the late 80s, early 90s. All of a sudden they're back in 2015 while we have a black president. You know, anybody who can't see through this is really concerning, I guess. Well, I was doing some live blogging there. So anyway, I just want to go back to once upon a time when I started this research, back before I knew numerology or gematria. I was trying to figure out what the significance of 33 was. And one of my initial thoughts was maybe it is just the Star of David. 2 3-sided figures, a 3 and a 3. Since then, I've learned a thing or two about gematria. Star of David with Pythagorean gematria equals 47, this number that gets quoted oh so often. It also sums to 119, reminding us of 9/11. Anybody who doesn't know the story of the dancing Israelis on September 11th should look that up. Men who were sent to the United States to record the attacks, then went back to Israel on their television and explained why they were here to document the attacks. So there's zero doubt that Israel knew about September 11th before it happened, because they literally had a camera crew over here to record it, and they said that's why they were here. And that's why they were dancing in the parking lot after they recorded it. You know? But these are our allies, right? We invite them to speak in Congress. I'm telling you, Truth Seeker, the only way anything passes in this world is because nobody's thinking, nobody's paying attention. Between the dancing Israelis and Israel's record, there's no reason for their prime minister to ever be speaking in Congress. Might as well have dug up Saddam Hussein from the grave and had him speak in Congress. I think his record is more honorable than Netanyahu's and Israel's. So his speech yesterday focused on nuclear weapons in Iran, an old theme. We'll get into that. Let's just listen to him speak for a little bit here. I hate the voice of Netanyahu.
Iran from developing nuclear weapons. It would all but guarantee that Iran gets those weapons, lots of them. That's why this deal is so bad. It doesn't block Iran's path to the bomb. It paves Iran's path to the bomb.
True Seeker, for how many years has our media been telling us Iran's about to get a nuclear bomb? You know, I don't know how many times I've seen headlines that Iran's a month, 2 months away from having a nuclear bomb. I think since 2007 up to the present, I've seen that headline probably at least 10 times, that they were just months away from having a nuclear bomb. How many times are they going to fool us with this? I feel like it's going to be 2030. I'm going to be old. I'm going to be getting wrinkles, gray hair, and I'm going to be watching TV, and they're still going to be talking about how Iran almost has the nuclear bomb.
What he objects to in this deal, being worked out by the U.S. and its allies with an end-of-this-month deadline, it would not require Iran to demolish any nuclear facility. Thousands of centrifuges would allow about a year of what's called breakout time. How long it would take Iran to make a nuclear bomb if it decided to would possibly only have a 10-year time frame. And Netanyahu says more inspections of facilities would only be able to document Iran's potential progress towards a weapon, but wouldn't be able to stop it.
The world should demand that Iran do 3 things. First, stop its aggression against its neighbors in the Middle East. Second, stop support.
Oh my goodness. How could Israel ever ask for anybody to stop aggression against their neighbors? See, Israel and the United States are the same thing. The most hypocritical entity to ever exist. These are the aggressor nations, Israel and the United States. Who are they to ask anyone to stop being aggressive? This is sick stuff. This is the evil empire going before the world and letting them know only they can be evil.
Supporting terrorism around the world. And third, stop threatening to annihilate my country, Israel, the one.
Truth Seeker, I want to point out John Boehner equals 114. Orrin Hatch equals 114. That's why Orrin spells his name with an extra R. So it sums to 114. However, if he pulled out that other R, it would sum to 96 like Freemason. But anyway, Truth Seeker, that's why these men are here. Numerology, name gematria. This is what's going on in the world. This is how your puppets are picked. For real. Not a coincidence. I get tired of all the idiots commenting on my blog about, some smart guy comes through. That's who I hate the most, True Seeker. The people who are intelligent, who just make little dumb witty remarks all the time. Buddy, you must not know about correlation and causation. It's like, dude, shut the fuck up and watch another video post and get out of here with your stupid ass assumptions. All right, moving on.
And only Jewish state.
Well, he got a huge reception here. The White House not impressed. President Obama didn't even watch the speech, but he did use nearly 15 minutes responding to it.
The Prime Minister didn't offer any viable alternatives. And the alternative that the Prime Minister offers is no deal, in which case Iran will immediately...
True Sticker, I just got to say I feel bad for President Obama here, even though I know he's an actor in on this. You know what his scripts are? His script here is to tell the truth. And by telling the truth, it's going to make him the bad guy in the American public. He's right. I mean, there is nothing new here. This is what we've been hearing for over a decade. Iran almost has their bomb. I mean, it just makes me sick, dude. How can they keep doing this? How do the idiot masses not wake up? And then they make the poor black president, number 44, who they're going to kill, they make him go out and tell the truth for the first time in his career.
Begin once again pursuing its nuclear program, accelerate its nuclear program, without us having any insight into what they're doing, and without constraint.
All right. It's just crazy how our mainstream media has covered this whole issue with more favoritism for Netanyahu than the United States president. Just by paying attention to the media, you can see who runs things. How is it possible that the U.S. media, supposedly, were to think it's the U.S. media? It's not. It's the New World Order media. There is no U.S. media. There is no United States. This country is an illusion. It's a Freemason New World Order creation. The whole thing was just to see if you could build a massive ignorant society that runs on consumption, and they found out that they can. So anyway, this whole debacle that's coming just before Israel's elections, which are on March 15th. Remember, months ago I said this was a date to watch out for. March 15th, 2015. This article came 33 days before the election. This is an Israeli news source. Look at how they're emphasizing 33 days to go for the election. Just like how in our media they give us 33 months left in Obama's lame duck presidency. Remember I showed those headlines? So yeah, this date, it's also Israel election. And this March 3rd, speaking in the United States, comes just before it. From Netanyahu's speech, the date numerology, March 3rd, 3-3 is the obvious part, but the date numerology is 14 and 21. The number 21 has been especially curious lately. While he was speaking, he used lies such as the 6 million dead Jews from the Holocaust. This is a lie that comes from old Jewish scripture for the Jews to reclaim Israel. 6 million must die. That's why they continue to hit us with this lie, because it's part of their Zionist text. He used phrases like describing Iran as religious zealots. I mean, give me a break. Everything they say is just so hypocritical. He used the word grave threat in CNN, put it in hyphens up on the screen while he was speaking. Grave threat sums to 53, another number that's getting quoted a lot. Obama's currently 53 years old. When he talked about Iran being a threat to world terror, possibly starting a war, the camera zoomed in on Rand Paul, who's getting a lot of attention right now. I don't know if he's going to be just like his daddy, used to stir up excitement and nothing else. But what's different about him and his dad is Rand Paul has a name gematria of 33. And way before I knew about numerology and gematria, I always thought the name Rand Paul was a weird name. Well, here's why, True Seeker. All you Ron Paul fans, time to wake up. Obviously another part of the script. I've seen that for years. If he was a legit person, there's no way he'd be left in Congress. Legit people don't remain in Congress. They get the boot. See Cynthia McKinney, what happened to her? She got the boot because she was legit. The only person to hold hearings over the missing 2 trillion from 99 and 2000 announced September 10th, 2001. Another legit person, Senator Paul Wellstone, his plane blew up. Legit people don't hang around. Ron Paul's not legit. He's a lying mouthpiece. You know, the other thing about Israel, Truth Seeker, is our nation gives us nothing but propaganda about Israel, Jew sympathy, all this bullshit. Here's a history lesson. World War I. The United States, before joining, supported Germany. We supported Germany. All of our media was in favor of Germany. Then this thing, the Balfour Declaration, rolled around. And next thing you knew, the United States was in the war fighting against Germany because this Balfour Declaration had been brought up and it promised the Zionist state of Israel for the false Jews. And the United States joined the war to help make that become a reality. And of course, Israel wasn't established after World War I, but it was after World War II. So what we're going to do, Truth Seeker, now is we're going to go back and we're going to look at newspaper articles from prior to even World War I talking about 6 million dead Jews and starting the lies that we're now bombarded with every day. All right, Truth Seeker. So here we're going to watch a YouTube documentary. This guy has 10 newspapers from the past, all showing this continued reporting of 6 million Jews and something tragic happening to them. And again, this happened before World War II when the Holocaust is said to have happened. Please remember the word Holocaust has a gematria of 33 and 114. Yesterday in the 114th Congress on 3/3, this lie was brought up again by Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel. The reason this lie was told in the first place, to secure such a state. So now let's watch this documentary. It's 20 minutes long, but it's totally worth it. Look at the first time the lie is ever told, Truth Seeker, in the United States. 6/6, June 6th. Not a coincidence. 100 years ago almost.
Hiya. He has 10 newspapers where these Jews are pushing this 6 million figure between the years of 1915 and 1938. The first newspaper is The Sun of New York. New York, June the 6th, 1915. That is The Sun. It's the first page of the 5th section that I want. There we go. The Sun, it's a bit ripped along there, it's all come off a bit. The 5th section, it's the front page. And the article is called Horrors Worse than Kishinev, Charged Against Russia Today. It is a big article, takes up most of the page. So go in, yeah, go. Since the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem, the Jewish people have had no darker page in their history than that which the Russian government is writing today. 6 million Jews, one half of the Jewish people throughout the world, are being persecuted, hounded, humiliated, tortured, starved. Thousands of them have been slaughtered. Hundreds of thousands of Jews, old men, women and children, are being driven mercilessly from town to town. There it is, people. 6 million Jews. One half of the Jewish people throughout the world are being persecuted, hounded, humiliated, tortured and starved. As I go along here, support here as well. Dear brethren, have mercy on the 6 million Jews in Russia and take our part. Once again, 6 million Jews in Russia. 6 million. This is in an article entitled Horrors worse than Kishinev charged against Russia today. That's in the Sun of New York, Sunday, June the 6th, 1915. This is
True Seeker, I want to point out the Sun sums to 33, just like Holocaust.
18 years before Hitler ever set foot in the government. 18 years. This is the next newspaper. This is New York.
Now again, the Sun summed to 33 in gematria, S exception. New York Times was established September 18th, 1851. That's a date with a numerology of 33. You look at every major news publication in this country, they all have deliberate connections to 33 because this is the ongoing conspiracy. These are the ongoing gangsters. We live in their world, their sandbox. These newspapers, this media, it's all part of their creation to control us. That's why it exists in the first place.
New York Times again. It's from 1918. There it is. The New York Times. October the 18th, 1918. It's page 12 that I want. There we go. Page 12. Page 12. The New York Times. October the 18th, 1918. And the article is called $1 billion Fund to Rebuild Jewry. There it is. 6 million souls will need help to resume normal life when war is ended. 6 million souls. As I go down the article here, there's again. 6 million Jews need help. 6 million. 6 million Jews need help. That's in an article called $1 billion Fund to Rebuild Jewry. That is in the New York Times, October the 18th, 1918. Here's the next newspaper. This is New York Times again. The New York Times, September the 8th, 1919. It's page 6 that I want. There we go. Page 6. Page 6. The New York Times, September the 8th, 1919. And the article is called Ukrainian Jews Aim to Stop Pogroms. Mass meeting hears that 127,000 Jews have been killed and 6 million are in peril. 6 million. As I go down the article, there it is. We come out now before the world with a determined slogan, "Those pogroms must stop," said the President in his annual message. It is only a question of holding these facts continually before the civilized world. We must not permit the world to slumber. This fact that the population of 6 million souls in Ukraine and in Poland have received notice through action and by word that they are going to be completely exterminated. You literally cannot make this up. 6 million souls completely exterminated. 6 million. That is an article called Ukrainian Jews Aim to Stop Pogroms In the New York Times, September the 8th.
And Truth Seeker, notice it's almost 100 years later, and the countries that are coming up in these stories from 100 years earlier are the same countries we see the focus on today, Russia and Ukraine.
1919. This 13 and a half year before Hitler come to power. This is the next newspaper. This is the New York Times again. The New York Times. The date, November the 12th, 1919.
As we watch this, I want you to think about how the New York Times puts out articles in modern times saying people who believe in conspiracy and conspiracy theory have mental illness. The New York Times now publishes articles like that, which the mainstream eat up. People who believe the rhetoric send it to me and accuse me of being mentally ill after reading in the New York Times that people who believe in conspiracy have mental illness. So that's how effective this propaganda is. And look how long they've been doing it for.
It's page 7 that I want on here. There you go. Page 7 in the New York Times, November the 12th, 1919. The article is called Tells Sad Plight of Jews. Felix M. Warburg says they were the worst sufferers in the war. There it is here. The successive blows of contending armies have all but broken the back of European Jewry, he said, and have reduced to tragically unbelievable poverty, starvation and disease about 6 million souls, or half the Jewish population of the earth. 6 million. 6 million souls, or half the Jewish population of the earth. I'll go further down the article so you can read the rest of it. There is again, people. Unbelievable poverty, starvation and disease. About 6 million souls, or half the Jewish population of the earth. An article entitled, Tells Sad Plight of Jews, in the New York Times, November the 12th, 1919. This is the next newspaper.
Notice the date, February 23rd. This isn't the only time that date's been used, but that's the number 223 in reverse, like Synagogue of Satan. I also want to point out that New York Times, or the New York Times, with K and S exception, sums to 93, like the number of Thelema. If you dropped one of the exceptions, it would sum to 84, like United States of America. But even the title of the paper is very coded. And when we think about New York, we know how important the number 39 is. So for the New York Times to equal 93, it makes all the sense in the world. The new tower there, One World Trade Center, sums to 93. Their numbers have always been around.
It's the Atlanta Constitution.
And where's Atlanta, Truth Seeker? Yes, on the 33rd parallel, abbreviated ATL, simple English gematria, ATL is 33. Here we go.
From 1920. February 23rd, 1920. The article's on the front page here. It's called $50,000 raised in city to save suffering Jews. And it goes along the bottom. Continued on page 3, column 4. So I'll go to page 3. There we go. Constitution, Atlanta, February 23rd, 1920. There it is. $50,000 raised to save suffering Jews. Continued from first page. I'll go down. He called upon the Atlanta Jews to arise to the occasion and to contribute to the emergency fund in order that the lives of 6 million of Jewish people may be saved. 6 million of Jewish people may be saved. I'll go further down. Rabbi Mark speaks. Rabbi Marks made an eloquent plea for generous responses to the call of the representatives of the Jewish Relief Fund. He drew a graphic picture of the starvation and suffering of the 6 million Jews who live in Eastern Europe and Palestine. 6 million Jews. Thousands upon thousands of our people have died of starvation and pestilence, and thousands more will die, he said. There it is, people. 6 million Jews. In an article entitled $50,000 raised to save suffering Jews in the Constitution of Atlanta, February 23rd, 1920. This is the next newspaper. This is the New York Times. This is from 1920. There we go. The New York Times. The date, Friday, May the 7th, 1920. It's page 11 that I want. There we go. Page 11. Page 11. The article is called "The Jewish War Aid Gets $100,000 Gift." There it is. The Fund for Jewish War Sufferers in Central and Eastern Europe, where 6 million face horrifying conditions of famine, disease and death, was enriched yesterday by a contribution of $100,000 from Nathan Strauss. Where 6 million face horrifying conditions of famine, disease and death. 6 million face horrifying conditions of famine, disease and death. I'll just go down the rest of the article if anybody wants to read it. There's an article called "Jewish War Aid Gets $100,000 Gift" in the New York Times, Friday, May the 7th, 1920. Here's the New York Times again. This is 1921. There you go. New York Times, Wednesday, July the 20th, 1921. It's page 2 that I want. There we go. Page 2. Page 2. New York Times, July 20th, 1921. And the article is called "Begs America, Save 6 Million in Russia. Massacre Threatens All Jews as Soviet Power Wanes, Declares Kreinin, Coming Here for Aid." Look at that. Russia's 6 million Jews are facing extermination by massacre. As the famine is spreading, the counter-revolutionary movement is gaining, and the Soviets' control is waning. Now, this is one of the biggest articles of the lot. This is 1921, 12 years before Adolf Hitler ever set foot in the government. Look at that. Russia's 6 million Jews are facing extermination by massacre. That's an article entitled "Begs America, Save 6 Million in Russia" on page 2 in the New York Times, Wednesday, July 20th, 1921. This is the Gazette of Montreal. This is 1931. The Gazette, Montreal, Tuesday, December the 29th, 1931. This is over a year before Hitler come to power. The Gazette, it's page 6 that I want. There we go. Page 6. Page 6. The Gazette, Montreal, December the 29th, 1931. And the article pretty much speaks up for itself. 6 million Jews face starvation. 6 million. Bad conditions in southeastern Europe reported by Rabbi Wise. Fears crisis at hand. 6 million Jews in Eastern Europe face starvation, and even worse, during the coming winter. 6 million Jews. I'll give us a look at the rest of the article. The article is called 6 million Jews face starvation. The Gazette of Montreal, December the 29th, 1931. 1.5 years before Adolf Hitler ever set foot in the government. This is the next newspaper. This is New York Times again. There we go. New York Times. But this is dated 1936. Sunday, May the 31st, 1936. This does not say the 6 million Jews, but it does say Holocaust. New York Times. It's page 14 that I want. There we go. Page 14. The New York Times, May the 31st, 1936. And the article is called Americans Appeal for Jewish Refuge. It's quite a big article. But it's along here.
Again, True Seeker, this is the New York Times, an establishment date with 33 numerology. The word Holocaust with Pythagorean gematria sums to 33, S exception 42, simple English gematria 114. We're in the time of the 114th Congress right now, having a lot to do with Holocaust.
Yeah. The petition, in expressing the opinion of enlightened Christian leadership in the United States, favoring a larger Jewish immigration into Palestine, stressed the intolerable sufferings of the millions of Jews in the European Holocaust. The European Holocaust in 1936, before the Second World War even started. You go up here. There it is again. Great Britain has it within her power to throw open the gates of Palestine and let in the victimized and persecuted Jews escaping from the European Holocaust. The European Holocaust in 1936, 3.5 years before the Second World War ever even started. That's in an article entitled Americans Appeal for Jewish Refuge, the New York Times, May the 31st, 1936.
Again, February 23rd, Synagogue of Satan.
Here's the next newspaper. This is New York Times again. New York Times,
Look at the victory up here on the screen, Truth Seeker. In 1938, it was no different than it was, or it is today.
This is dated February the 23rd, 1938. This is before the Second World War started. About a year and a half. The New York Times. It's page 23 that I want. There you go. Page 23. The New York Times, February 23rd, 1938. And the article is called Jewish Teachers Chided by Isaacs. I'll go along the bottom. It is a Jewish tragedy pictured. A depressing picture of 6 million Jews in Central Europe deprived of protection or economical opportunities, slowly dying of starvation, all hope gone, was presented to the teachers by Jacob Tarshish. The Jewish tragedy started when Hitler came into power in 1933. There it is again, people. 6 million Jews in Central Europe, slowly dying of starvation. 6 million. This is in 1938. Jewish teachers chided by Isaacs. New York Times, February 23rd, 1938. A year and a half before the Second World War even started.
All right, Truth Seeker, so there it was. Decades worth of reporting the number 6 million dead and dying Jews well before the Holocaust. That's the number that was officially said to represent those killed in World War II, Jews, or mostly Jews. But really, we know that comes from the Zionist text. That's the number they need to reclaim Israel, which they've done since. So they justify their actions with lies. And they document their lies over and over for decades in advance. I'm sure, besides the papers he collected, it was printed in many other places. That's just the information he was able to dig up. So again, Balfour Declaration to get the United States into World War I to secure the Zionist state. The point is, Truth Seeker, we've been living out a conspiracy of lies to achieve an agenda. And when Netanyahu came and spoke in Congress yesterday, 3-3, it was part of this ongoing agenda, crammed with lies. Come back to that. Let's look at this article right here. This is from 2003, or actually 2007 CNN. But the point is the entire post 9/11 era, since the year, like here they're acknowledging 2003, we've been saying that Iran is on the verge of enriching uranium and getting a nuclear bomb. We've been hit with this lie, this ongoing lie for more than a decade now. They continue to present it the exact same way, like it could happen any day. That said, I do notice in this article they use the year 2015, and here we are. So maybe that's been the plan all this time. They've just been waiting, lying to us, so that it's well ingrained by the point we got here. You know, I don't think there's many people in the United States of America at this point, or if I asked them who were the United States enemies, who would give answers any different than North Korea and Iran. Because it's been conditioned so many different ways. As I mentioned in a video post the other day, the Heritage Foundation has a documentary called 33 Minutes. 33 minutes. That's the amount of time, supposedly, it would take for Iran or North Korea to attack us with one of their long-range missiles. What a joke. With regards to nuclear weapons, what they're taunting us with, in our own history, nuclear weapons are all coded with 33, like yesterday's date, 3-3. The date we dropped the bomb on Hiroshima, August 6, 1945, that's a date with a numerology of 33. Prior to that, it was first tested in a date with 33 numerology in July. and it was the 33rd president, Truman, who ordered it. The original test was done on the 33rd parallel in New Mexico, the 47th state. 47. Here's what I want you to notice with nuclear, weapon, and energy. All these words have simple English gematria of 74. Nuclear, weapon, and energy. All 74. I truly think, Truth Seeker, we've been lied to about nuclear weapons and nuclear energy. I'm starting to think it's a complete fiction. It doesn't exist. It's part of the PSYOP. It's part of the fear control. I mean, just think about what they did to us on 3/11/11 with Japan and their nuclear energy plant. Based on the headlines we got, we should all be poisoned and dead by now. But it seems like even the people in Japan are fine, who've gone through many nuclear fallouts, even from U.S. nuclear testing supposedly on the nearby islands. Japan has a history of nuclear fallout stories. So again, I did a written post a long time ago. This is December 30th, 2013 on that video we just watched. If you want to come back to my blog and check the dates in the paper, you can see the majority of those articles he showed were from the New York Times, the 33 paper with the coded gematria name, the Sun, again, 33, first set on June 6, 1915. We're coming up on the 100-year anniversary of that. Tragic stuff, Truth Seeker. And just to show you how these numbers come up, here was a headline from Netanyahu on July 20th, 2014. Remember, that was one of the dates in the paper propaganda. He said, Israel seeks sustainable quiet with Gaza. And you just have to go, what's a sustainable quiet? What's that mean? Sustainable quiet? Well, let's do a little gematria. A 3327, you know, numbers we see all the time. Maybe he was talking about a Michael Brown, which happened not long after. Michael's 33, Brown's 27. They love to code these numbers in their ongoing phrasing. And prior to that, we got the story of these 3 dead Israeli teens. This is what set up his comment about the sustainable quiet. Look at the names on these dead teenagers. Netanyahu went up and gave a speech in front of 3 caskets that supposedly these boys were in. I'm telling you, those caskets were empty. Empty. Look at these names. Jalad Shar, 3347. Do it all with Pythagorean gematria 44, like the word kill. The other one, Ayel Yifrach. Gematria of 113. Just a coincidence, right? All the people who come around on my blog writing, saying all I report on is coincidence. Oh boy, Truth Seeker. And then the other one, Naftali Frankel, 6367. If you go back and do the numerology for the dates, all those dates we just looked at in the papers, so many of them had 36 and 63 gematria. Numbers that the synagogue of Satan loves. Also, 67 is a very important number to the Masons. So all 3 of these boys with interesting name gematria. And here's Netanyahu giving the speech, talking about how Israel's under threat, under attack. It's a joke, Truth Seeker. It should be pointed out that Iran was overthrown in the year 53 once upon a time. We threw out the Shah. All according to the numbers. And what we saw yesterday, the speech, it was another speech by the numbers, by the propaganda, by the lies. The lies that continue to control our society. The United States of America is a nation shaped by Zionist lies from World War I to World War II and the Holocaust to September 11th. All Zionist lies, all to achieve the agenda we're seeing waged against us on the daily. It's time to wake up, Truth Seeker. Please help spread the word. The Holocaust is a lie. It's a hoax. When I was a kid, my mom would say, Zach, there's people out there who even deny the Holocaust. My mom's one of these people who was taught to say that Jews are God's chosen people. And do you know who taught her that? This same Zionist Jew media, because that's what they think of themselves, as God's chosen people and none of us matter. And my mom used to tell me I had their blood, so I was one of them. She's a victim of the propaganda. But my mom, like other people, can learn. I've been showing my mom all this stuff over the years, and she has been listening to this because she sees how it could all be angled. And anyone who pulls the blinders off can see the same thing. Jews have their name on everything. Movies. Think about that. How many Americans know anything about World War II outside of movies and what they learned in a classroom? Almost no one living. And who's given us our information this way? These same Zionist Jews. It's all a big code, truth seeker. I hope you're learning how to see it and teach others, because we're only going to get past this once we wake up. All right, until next time.